trunks and this war has it begin. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV, a Biden-approved secret nuclear strategy on refocusing on the Chinese threat. Now, on paper, we have talked about how every country has turned away from the big bad boogeyman in the caves in the Middle East to essentially China and Russia. Now, this is one further step in that way, and this is something that people are very concerned about. Now, as far as the American structure scaring the hell out of its people, that happens on a regular basis. But it is kind of crazy when you look at other countries like Russia, which right now are basically telling people to plan accordingly and to tell people how to prep for 25-year storage. They are essentially talking about nuclear bombing the U.S. on their television. Meanwhile, we're told, well, we're okay and everything is just fine. So let's go into this piece here. And, of course, the Biden-approved secret nuclear strategy refocusing on the Chinese threat. So let me pop this open real quick, and let me see here. I just ended up closing it, didn't I? All right, let's see here. Let me go back to this. Dex, I'm going to reopen it. It keeps closing down on me because it's not formatted.
Not a problem. So, look, he basically approved a highly classified nuclear strategic plan. It's called the Nuclear Employment Guidance, and it's to reorient the America deterrent strategy. But the shift in this plan is adding China in and reiterating what's been going on between Russia and North Korea. So we've got three fronts on a nuclear plan. And this was actually done, and it was sort of in secret because nobody knew about it. It just came out today that this had been done, I think, back in March by the president. So it does mark a significant shift in the change because we had primarily only been focused on Russia in the past. And it re-emphasized coordinated challenges from all three fronts, China, Russia, and North Korea now. It goes on to talk about the estimates, which we've talked about in great detail about the number of warheads. China's nuclear arsenal could expand to 1,000 warheads by 2030. We actually have seen numbers that say it might even be more than that at the rate they're currently growing. So, that and a lot more is happening. And it wasn't supposed to be public, I guess. This just sort of came out and came to light today, and everybody's sort of up in arms about, hey, what does this really mean?
And I don't know if this was like a purposeful leak where they're saying that it's not supposed to be public, but this is everything that we have covered on this show and in the community, really, because what we cover in this show is what is being talked about in the prepper community, what is being talked about, of course, in the community of people that essentially aren't just believing mainstream media. As far as a war on three fronts, we've talked about this a lot because you can see that all of our adversaries are not only working together. We have our allies working as far as with NATO, and then, of course, now Japan with the Trilateral Alliance or the Asian NATO type thing going on. We see them work together, nonstop. China, Russia, Iran, and many other countries, including India, they've been doing drills and things like this, but these are really tight allies now. All of these countries, it almost makes kind of a backward C. All of these countries are now preparing for something massive. Now you're seeing it on white papers that they're preparing for this when we've been talking about this for years. Many people believe that, of course, this is going to happen, that no, it's not just to scare us, but at the same time, that this is being done because there is a bigger purpose at hand, that after the dust settles, after World War III, which is not the end of the world, after everybody goes to battle, we lose millions and millions of people from, in every country that is fighting. After that all settles, that we will come back to a different system, that we may have a different currency, not Chinese yuan, but again, this would have, we would have overarching effects to the entire world. That is what we're looking at. And if you are not there yet, then I think that you have a little bit to go, because I really think that it's pretty obvious what they are trying to do by 2030 in just 6 years. So in just 6 years, they want to do all of these changes, but these changes are something that you cannot do unless you make major, drastic changes. Now, we are seeing changes on a daily basis. Over just the last 4 years, there were things done to cultural norms and changes that were basically put in place through corporations. So video games is a great example. Everybody is complaining right now that everything culturally in video games is basically being shoved in almost every game, including a game that nobody expected would kind of go, woke or whatever you want to call it, which was GTA. Every game there is. Now, that was put in there by different corporations. And you've even had people come out from those corporations and people that are designing these things and saying, this is a requirement. This is from the very, very top. You could take any instance of what is going on in culture, and it's coming from the very, very top. And then when you look at the very top, you're looking at groups that are meeting, and these very top people are meeting in these groups that are also a part of the W and the E and the F, or a different group, or the builders, if you know what I'm throwing here. If you're catching what I'm throwing, all of these groups are making decisions for the entire world. These groups are also invested in China and Russia just as much as they are in the U.S. So, it's kind of odd here that you have some of these people at the very top that are basically funding both sides of a war. Sounds familiar? That's because every war in history has had rich oligarchs funding both sides. So we'll cover this and much, much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Bywater Beats Production says, benefiting mostly from tipping the markets. There's a lot of craziness going on all over the world, and we're all grabbing our popcorn. CR User says, yay, caught you live. Thank you, Marf and Dex. Mrs. Constitutional Rights says, hello, everyone. Ryan Alter is here. We've got Feather American Good Eagle and so many more. Let's get back into it. By the way, thank you for this week's new members, Edward Elkins, ericsplace.com, Bobby Sue. I know you don't have to do that. Thank you so much. Melanie White, Polar Bear, Proctor Kidwell, Lane Tatum, and then, of course, Dark Knight Cowboy. Thank you guys this week for joining. All right, and then let's get back into the news. Let's go over to you, Dex. U.S. sends defense treaty trigger warning to China.
Well, yeah. So if it's not one thing, we're aligning our military to get prepared for nuclear confrontation across three fronts. We're also now dealing with this defense treaty warning that we just triggered to China. So if you guys remember the treaty we have with Philippines, it is the United States Article 4 of the 1951 U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty. It basically says that we have to defend the Philippines from any armed forces, public vessels, aircraft, including those of the Coast Guard, like just happened. So what happened? One of the China ships has rammed into, yet again, a Philippine ship. So we had to make that statement. We had to come out and say, reminder, we're here and we will protect them. So, one of the quotes was, the United States stands with its ally, the Philippines, and condones the dangerous actions by the People's Republic of China against lawful Philippine maritime operations, South China Sea. So this collision, it occurred near the contested Spratly Islands, specifically the Sabina Shoal, which is within the Philippines' internationally recognized economic zone. Of course, the U.S. blamed China's Coast Guard for ramming the ship. But then, of course, China says, no, Sabina Shoal has always been Chinese territory and blames the Philippines for being there, and says China will continue to take resolute measures to safeguard its territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests. But again, what does this really mean? It means that the confrontation going on in the South China Sea, at least between the Philippines and China, still going on, still escalating, and the U.S. having to make a trigger warning to China still happening, and we had to reiterate it again just this week over this one incident. So we'll pay attention, because we think that's going to be one of the hot spots that's going to tick off when China goes to invade or take back Taiwan.
And strangely enough, we just covered last night that they moved one of the last carrier out of the South China Sea. At the same time, just days before that, we actually covered that there are videos being populated. They're being put up about essentially moving tanks and troops to the coast of China. Now, I pointed out that this has happened 2 years in a row, and each one of those was a drill to take Taiwan. When they do this, they're essentially practicing or doing a practice run on when they finally do take Taiwan. And when you see the kind of movement that they make, it is a massive ordeal. They shut down city streets through multiple streets. You had tanks driving through, not on train, as well as trains full of equipment, full of missile launchers, full of actual boats that are on special lifts. You had cranes on those to basically quickly unload. The whole thing, of course, is hopefully a drill. But the timing of all of this, we are now months away from the Pick the Prez Day. And that Pick the Prez Day here in the United States will affect the entire world. And this is something that people really have to start prepping for, because if anything, if there was going to be a big event, it would be right before our Pick the Prez Day, or in the 3 months after that happens, while the power is being transferred over. This is my thought, and this is based on watching this for 6 years, talking to many military members, including one who was just let go for loss of confidence in the last 6 months. This is something that happened for no reason whatsoever. They're getting rid of almost anybody and everybody that has a different belief than the one that they are now instilling. So something massive is in the works. I feel like there are people inside our country and inside of different areas that are actually trying to help our adversaries. I know, sounds crazy, right? That would almost be called, like, I don't know, a spy or somebody who is committing treason. Do you believe that there's people inside of our own gov that might be committing treason? I personally do. And with the decisions that we've made, with the weapons we've left behind, with all things, the one thing I do know is the party that is prospering the most is the military-industrial complex. And it is just absolutely blowing up in their pockets. So as the next story here, again, U.S. ally reports intercepts of 3 groups of Russian and Chinese warships. This is at the same time we cleared out the South China Sea of the carriers. Right now would be in pretty opportune time because it takes days to respond, if not weeks in some cases. But now they're catching these groups. Before I talk about this, I do want to remind you we're an independent, small channel. If you guys do want to help us and protect yourself against not only an EMP strike, but also a Carrington-level event from the sun, go get a tiny device that you can actually put right into your car in about 10 minutes. You don't have to be a mechanic, and it protects you against not only lightning, of course, a Carrington-level event from the sun, a solar CME, but it will also protect you against an adversarial EMP attack. That way your car will still run, and it will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second after multiple EMP strikes. You can also put it on your motorcycles, RVs, motorhomes, of course, generators, and even the solar generator in the case of the Energy Flex 1500 and the Flex Tactical. They actually make one directly with, they partnered for that. So if you do want to get that, or if you have the Energy, definitely get it protected, because if you make an investment like that, it's definitely worth keeping around after the time when you need it. So there's also a home version. That one is a little bit complicated depending on the state. You can have an electrician put in, or some states you might even be able to do it yourself. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF, not only to get a huge $50 off per discount per device, but you can also help our channel out at the same time. Our families thank you, and appreciate you guys just sharing us out at the very least. And then, of course, Japan intercepted 3 groups of Russian and Chinese warships in its surrounding waters in recent days as the United States and Tokyo's security ally faces a widening power gap in the Western Pacific Ocean. The recent Russian and Chinese naval activities around Japan come after U.S. Navy redeployed 2 of its Pacific-based aircraft carriers and their strike groups to the Middle East as tensions there rise. This is exactly what we are pointing out. Now that they need backup for this whole Iran thing, we are now distracted from the South China Sea. I know that the U.S. most likely has satellites watching China do all of this movement, and I'm wondering if they just, hope this is a drill as far as them moving tanks and troops and everything to their coastlines. But again, maybe there's somebody that's turning the other way and looking away from it. I don't know. On Monday and Tuesday, Japan's defense ministry reported movements of foreign warships within its exclusive economic zone, or its EEZ. The 2 Grisha-class corvettes and 1 Alexandrit-class minesweeper of the Russian Navy were spotted operating in waters north of the Japanese island of Hokkaido. The Russian warships later transited La Perouse Strait westward from the Sea of Okhotsk and entered the Sea of Japan. All of which, again, if this was China or any other country, they would be absolutely making a big fuss about. And then Russia protests to U.S. over American journalists in Kursk. So, Dex, do you want to go over this and what Russia is saying?
Okay, so do you guys remember, and Adam, do you remember how they told us that we were not going to necessarily have reporters on the front lines with the UKR soldiers? That's why we would only get information coming out of UKR sources.
Yep. No embedded soldiers.
No embedded soldiers. But so get this now. let's listen to what's happening here. Russia has summoned the U.S. Charge d'Affaires Stephanie Holmes to protest against the actions of American journalists in the Kursk region, accusing them of illegally entering and they're now intending to prosecute them. The protest is related to the reporting from the Washington Post, from CNN, that they were in the Russian border town of Sudza, which is currently under Ukrainian control, because we have talked quite a bit about how they did that invasion. But they were accompanied by the Ukraine military convoys and reporting on the situation. Of course, the foreign ministry is claiming that these actions demonstrate the U.S. involvement, and Russia's accusing the American reporters of entering the region illegally and providing, quote unquote, propaganda coverage, as they would call it, which is fair enough on their point. I'm sure that's what they would think of it as. And they go on to talk about potentially wanting to prosecute them, and they're very upset. Russia also claimed, this is the other claim they make, there was absolutely no evidence of this, but they claimed this, that the American private military companies are involved in supporting the forces in the conflict there as well. Now, we've heard that may be happening at some point. We've talked about that. We've covered about the potential of private military companies, the funding for that coming from the U.S. to pay for them. But mind you, there's a couple of things that don't add up. I didn't think we were supposed to have reporters on the front line, but now we do, and they're crossing the border illegally into Russia with Ukrainian soldiers. Of course, it's because we want to have this big, splash show about how great UKR is doing against Russia and taking their land. But this is very interesting when you think about it. Yeah.
When we want people to see something, there's no lack of reporters from CNN or the Washington Post. Notice how you don't see Fox News reporters embedded either. Not saying Fox is any better, especially now. But again, all of these, it's always a CNN exclusive, and they chop it up to, well, CNN is on this side of the aisle, and they have a good friendship right now with the current admin because they're on the same side of the aisle. So they have the same bias, right? So that's why they get all these exclusives. Well, if you look at the owners and all of the media companies, they all go up to a very, very tight point of a pyramid. And we all know this, and most of all of you know this, but your friends and family all around you are being bamboozled by the media. Everybody is being scared. Even people watching this show, if they haven't watched long enough, they think, oh, this is propaganda. We're covering the news, and if you don't cover the news, this is something I've made a point for years to make. This is history in 20 years. What CNN reports and what the fact checkers back up on their end is what is going to be put in history books for high school students to learn in 20 or 30 years. So really think about like what we learned growing up, and it makes you question everything. Because when you have seen an event, or now in the day of live stream, I saw 8 people on a thing called DLive platforming a live event. It was a certain day that everybody talks about now as infamous. I saw things happen that got erased, deleted, and then put into archives, never to be seen again. The people that took them disappeared as well. I saw an event, and I saw exactly how it went down. For me to argue 6 months later after it all goes down with somebody and they're telling me it's completely different, and they go, well, look at this, fact check this, and this, and this article says this, and I'm like, I watched it live before it was a big deal. I watched the video cutout, but them keep the audio on saying they're 4 feet more, they're 10 feet closer, grab your chairs if you have to, use your chairs for defensive things. I saw this thing live. And again, when you go back to the history books, when you go back to all of this is going to be put in the history books in 20 years. So when you look at all of this with the PMCs and things like this, understand they want us to see this. They want us to scare this. But at the same time, you have to cover this stuff because you have to question everything at this point. You are not unpatriotic for questioning your own country. You are the biggest patriot if you question what your country is doing. That means you care. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, Adam, got a Jay Sands in chat. He gave us some breaking news. I put it in up next if you want to grab that and pull it up real quick. And while you do that, so this is all related to Ukraine and the Russia events that are happening right now. The other thing that we need to mention too as well was what was coming out of Lukashenko and his recent statements saying that this invasion from UKR, he feels, is a intentional act to provoke Russia to using tacticals. And if they will just use the tacticals, UKR will be ecstatic because they think that the rest of the world will then jump in and support them as opposed to just giving them money. They would expect NATO to form up around them. So that's his position. That's what he has been saying today. Now, this just broke a couple hours ago, again, thanks to Jay Sands. And if you want to jump into that one, Adam?
Yeah, Ukraine launches one of the largest ever drone attacks on Moscow. And this is according to Moscow's mayor. It says that Ukraine, of course, launched one of the largest ever drone attacks on Moscow on Wednesday, the city's mayor said, with Russian air defense units destroying at least 10 drones flying upwards towards the capital. Some of the drones were destroyed over the city of Podolsk. Mayor Sergei Sobyanin, the city in Moscow region, is some 24 miles south of the Kremlin. So very close. The air defense systems of the defense ministry continue to repel enemy UAV or unmanned aerial vehicle attacks. It says this is one of the largest attempts to attack Moscow using drones ever. We continue to monitor the situation. He said that according to the preliminary information, there were no injuries or damage in the aftermath of the attacks. Ukraine, of course, has often launched 1 or 2 drones targeting Moscow in recent months, causing no substantial damage. So I wonder, where did they launch these from? Did it say where they actually launched it from in here? You know, did they launch this from their newfound base in the tiny towns, or, you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. But you know they're sitting on the edge of wanting to use the Western weapons that will reach into Moscow. They've just never been given the orders to go further, deeper into Russia than just the locations that Russia is firing on them from. It just makes me wonder how how much longer until we actually see Ukraine just say, you know what, we're going to send them anyway, and they start sending storm shields and ATACMS or other missiles that have been provided by the U.S., whether they're ground launched or even air launched, and going deeper into Russia and provoking this. It just seems like the provocation has escalated. I mean, to invade and to now launch the largest drone attack on the capital of Russia. I mean, that's pretty big moves.
And this isn't coming. One thing I want to point out: this isn't coming from Ukraine. Ukraine hasn't actually commented on it, according to this. So this is Russia saying out loud to the world, making sure that Reuters is reporting it, that they were just attacked near their capital by multiple drones, a large strike. Can they use this to then do a tit for tat, or even say, hey, you guys have broken every single rule that we put in our nuclear doctrine for our tactical nuke system? And I believe if even that included certain things like multiple missiles towards or closer to their capital, airfields, 3 or more of their big Navy ships getting taken out. They're at like 22, but at least three big ones. And then certain airfields and certain sources. And they said in their nuclear doctrine, early warning systems, I believe. So that has happened as well. What is going on here? And do you remember when this first started? I kept saying, like, wouldn't it be crazy if the U.S., if everything wasn't how we see it, and the U.S. was actually going to somehow, or Ukraine was going to invade with the help of all of these other partners or something like that. That's almost what some of this portrays it as. I know that we don't know what the actual truth is, but I said that early on in this conflict, and so did a lot of other people. They said, because people pointed out, and here's a map. This is kind of a crazy thing, and you can find this over on my Twitter. And it is pretty crazy. If this was reversed, we would probably see the U.S. do some pretty serious reactions to this, and it would probably be over the years. So let me show you this real quick. And we're trying to do a quicker show today because we're working on other projects right now. But let me see here. Does that show? Let's not. Okay, so let's see if we can. Nope, it's gonna do full screen. Okay, let me zoom into this. So this is over time. This starts in 1949. This is the NATO alliance. The lighter blue is individual partnership. The light blue is partnership for peace. White is non-NATO member. So you can see Germany, Poland, Finland, Sweden, Romania, Hungary. You've got, I can't remember what AUT is, but all of these are not. And then Germany joins. You have Denmark. You have Netherlands. You have Belgium. You have Italy. You have Spain join. This is in the 80s, right? And you see Russia actually has Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine. All of this then goes away. That was when the whole wall fell. All of that happened. Now we're close to 2000. All of these are individual partnerships, or I'm sorry, partnership for peace is what all of these states are. Then NATO creeps in. And I'm not saying that this is this is not a good thing for us, but again, now people are starting to question, looking at our current setup and what has been going on in the United States, what has been going on with different agencies and different three-letter agencies and what they've been doing to certain, candidates. People wonder what the hell is really going on right now. So if you go there, and that doesn't even include Sweden and Finland. So that is 2022. Now they have actually added Finland and Sweden. So this isn't even updated. This is dark blue now. Ukraine is said to be dark blue very soon. So if you were to play devil's advocate and look at the other side, you could see that at the very least that they're probably going to fight tooth and nail not to have anything come into their space. Right now, you have Ukraine in Russia essentially reverse invading. You have them invading Ukraine and Ukraine invading them. Of course, what they're invading is these, what it even said a second ago, tiny towns with a couple dozen elderly residents. So we don't know what the actual layout is, The media is coming from CNN and the Washington Post. They're completely unbiased, though. I just wanted to guarantee that for you. But I guess we'll see. And then Dex, Netanyahu accused of abandoning the hostages. It's been 10 months, and they are still there. So
Blinken went there. They've been doing this last-ditch proposal. The proposal was agreed upon by Netanyahu, and then it got kind of kicked back around, and then he pushed back because they are asking for control of the Strip and Egypt border, that area where Rafah is. It's called the Philadelphia axis and the Netzer corridor. He does not want to give up control of that or relinquish control of that. He doesn't mind that, and he's even said that Egypt has agreed that Israel should control that, and if they do, then they'll allow that border, the Rafah border, to open back up. They're asking for him to give that up, and he's not willing to. So he made a statement to the families today saying it doesn't look like the deal actually may not happen. And then, of course, one of the forum groups that's there to support all of the people that are held captive, expressed their concerns about feeling abandoned and that he's not doing anything to get it done. Of course, depends on what side you're on with this. I'm sure there's a lot of political aspects of that as well. Even within their own country, there's some divide as to how they should be dealing with the issue. But nonetheless, it looks like that this may not happen, or it's got the potential for it to fall apart because the people that are in charge in the Strip are saying, "Nah, we're not giving that corridor up. We want control of it in the ceasefire deal, not you." Now, we've also said, and it's been reported, that this could be the reason why Iran has been holding back on this alleged attack that's coming up. And they just keep saying it could happen any day now. It could happen any day now. But a lot of people are saying, well, they're waiting to see if this deal will go through. And if they can get this deal through, then maybe that's a reason not to do it, or at least wait until this passes. So this is sort of a linchpin, so to speak, or it's pretty critical to see what happens with this deal. And I think it sounds like it's on the brink of falling apart.
Now, I want to point out, I got a couple comments over the last week, and usually they're pretty much the same, saying, oh, well, what happened? Iran hasn't struck. You said 24 to 48 hours. First of all, we never said 28 to 48 hours. And if you watch regularly, we were covering those headlines. That is exactly what the headlines covered. Since day one, both Dex and I, before even the first show we covered their potential retaliation, we both agreed. And we both said from day one that their timelines are never correct. In fact, my example in the very first episode, which you can go back to when this all happened, it's all archived on our website, that we essentially have said that it's not going to be the timeline that they say. The media can also use this retaliation, which I believe will happen. They can use it almost every day and then people will not believe it. People will be completely surprised when it does happen because for a week straight, they said in any minute now it's going to happen. I said that look at the example, how they knew about the Russian threat, right? For some reason, the U.S. Embassy put this thing out and said, there's a big threat against a concert venue. They said American citizens stay away from concerts in the next 72 hours. And of course, we said then the time frames are never accurate. 72 hours came, and then people were like, well, 72 hours, nothing happened. A week and a half later, I think it was, that's when it ended up happening. Now, it did happen. They said there's solid intelligence, there's going to be this thing, and they said it was this group. Everybody picked apart that video of that group going through. People thought they looked unprofessional. People thought that these guys were just, the guy was dropping clips, and it was just a whole mess. But that event in itself, they called a T attack out of nowhere. There hasn't been stuff after or before, or at least not stuff like that. Where did that come from? These are ops that are going on all of the time between countries, and most of them, it's not the big bad group they say it is. Even if that big bad group says, oh, we claim this, usually it's because they get a call on the red phone or other phone, and they're like, hey, can you guys claim this one? And then they get their back scratched. Something funky is happening here with the entire world, and I think there's a much bigger plan at play. And the thing they do not care about is our lives. If you think that they have a conscience and they're thinking, oh, we're not going to, we're not going to have 100 million people less on Earth or 2 billion people less on Earth, oh, we couldn't do that. Are you kidding? They have loudly said that would be their goal, that they want that. But they, of course, don't say it straight up that they would do it in such a horrible way. But as far as these timelines, I've said since day one, it's not going to be the time when you think. I said day 1, day 3, when they said it was going to be 24 to 48, I said, nope, it's not. And then when they said it was going to be Tisha B'Av, which, again, when Tisha B'Av came, it didn't happen. It's going to be massive. There's something planned for not only Israel, but something planned with us. And they have been saying for 3 or 4 years that they have a massive event planned here, and they have more sleeper cells than almost any other Middle Eastern country in our country right now. Guess who else does? China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, Venezuela. They all have these people inside of our country already. That's why I said it's not going to be Red Dawn parachutes falling. It's going to be a tap on the shoulder and, hey, take this bracelet or else. That's what I think is going to happen. It's going to be closer to a Dragon Day thing where people are already on the side. If this happens, and I sure hope it does not, I really hope it does not, but this is news from a prepper standpoint. So we're prepping for what we believe is likely based on patterns and what is being put out by mainstream media, what is being put out by military groups, what is being put out, of course, in the rumor mill. All of this has to be put together, and basically everybody has predicted what is going to happen. From, Kamala, this whole thing with the VP. Here's another one. For instance, everybody said, oh, Newsom, they're setting him up. He went and visited Xi directly. Then, of course, nobody else gets to visit. Elon goes there and doesn't get to talk to Xi. But Gavin Newsom does. They were setting him up. Everybody thought, oh, he's going to be the new candidate, right? Well, not yet. If you haven't noticed, he's been on this kind of thing where he says, oh, the government's not doing a fast enough job cleaning the streets. So they just do this very convenient photo op of him down in the grit with a regular baseball cap, which some consultant guaranteed told him, do a baseball cap. It relates to the blue-collar workers. And go pick up some garbage, because that's always going to be something that people are like, yeah, that's right. And people agree with the fact that he's going, they're just not working fast enough. He's the one who's not working fast enough. He's the one that 5 million people are going, hey, you're not doing this fast enough. And then he turns around and says, yeah, I'm trying to get this done, but they just won't move fast enough. So I'm going to go pick up a couple pieces of garbage myself. And conveniently by himself gets put on camera. I mean, people don't get what Ganda is compared to what a natural thing is. If it was natural, there wouldn't be cameras there. He would be doing it on his own. Nobody would be there, and nobody would ever hear about it. If you have a camera crew set up and called for you to go clean up or to help somebody, I don't even think that's help. I think that's not charity. That's not anything. You're doing that for the cameras. But either way, as far as like with all of this, it's super predictable. I think last minute they're going to, put Gavin in there. It's like these things can be predicted. And World War III is not the big scary thing you think it is, or at least it's not scary in the way that it's the end of the world. It's the start of the new one. Now, they say that we could wait a long time before retaliating against Israel, or at least the opinion pieces are now saying this. After every day basically saying, we're going to scare the crap out of you, it's going to happen, and it's World War III. I do believe it's going to be World War III when this starts, and now I believe that this is going to be coordinated with also an event in the U.S., that China will be involved, that Russia will be involved, and that Venezuela and Cuba and everyone else will be involved. That's what I think this is going to be. There may be a smaller attack, but I think that they're waiting for the big one. The thing that our former president T-Man said that they were planning on the U.S. and the reason why they took out Soleimani. I think this is all being planned. But again, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Bill Fortenberry, thank you for the thank you for the sticker. I appreciate that. Thank you, Ilea, testing super chat for Lindy Lou. Thank you, Ilea, and I appreciate that. Thanks for helping out. And then Stephen McMahon, I'm off Friday, and I'm going to go to town to the convention site and try to film whatever I can and send it to the show. Stephen McMahon, Play My Video is at marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. Just upload it to YouTube, and then we can get it on. Carlton Sutton, thank you so much. Carol, thank you so much. Thank you guys for the super stickers. Dex, as far as everything that has been going on, as far as they're saying it might take a long time, what do you think about them coordinating?
So this is coming directly from the IRGC. So it sounds very much like it's part of a strategy that they're using. One of the things that we said early on is that typically when Iran does something or it has to respond to something, they don't do it instantly. We even said when they first had they said the missile came into the bedroom window and took out the guy, right? We were like, yeah, they're going to respond, but it's not going to be immediate. That's just not their MO. They don't just come back and retaliate, kind of like the US or Israel does, where they do something in strength right away within 24, 48 hours, no more than a week if there's some planning involved. It's just not their style. And of course, now they're saying, hey, time's on our side and we're waiting. And the response may be long, and that's part of our plan. It's part of a way to mess with the minds of the people we're affecting. That's not a quote. That's my interpretation of what they're getting at here. But it goes back to the fact that they've always had that type of position. You will see, if you go back in time, you'll see that there's actions they've taken that have been in response for something that happened, even a year before. It's never like 2 days later, a week later, or a month later. So this is not out of the norm for them, in my opinion. It's what we said originally, although all of the media, even our own DOD has pushed all of our carriers, leaving China wide open into the region. Everybody's there thinking there's going to be a response at some point, imminent any day now. And maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe they were trying to get us to do that and now hold us in that holding position.
And at the same time, during this week, what was it? Was it the Houthis, or was it Hamas, or it was the third one that had the underground missile base?
Yeah, it was in Lebanon, the
Hezbollah. So they now have come out and said they have the same thing that Iran does, which is an underground missile base. It seems like they are stocking up. They're preparing for a massive battle. I don't think it's just 600 missiles and 300 drones. I don't think it's that. I think they're planning for the other thing. And then also, if you look at how the public has sided with all of this, they might be playing, that might play into as a factor with all of this. Now you, of course, have protesters kicking through the DNC fences that are on the same side to get through and tell them, F you, you guys are horrible people, this and that, you're not doing anything. The timing of all of this is super confusing because it really does make us just go in circles, and our thoughts are split 50 different ways. But I think if we all go with our gut, I think my gut tells me that they are planning something massive. I think it is going to be grid down in the U.S., possibly Canada. I think that China is going to take Taiwan. Russia is going to make a huge move on Ukraine and possibly others. Who knows? Now, after all of the stuff that's gone down in the last 2 years, I think that North Korea is something nobody talks about unless there's a headline. North Korea and South Korea, and then Venezuela, Guyana. All of it's going to happen, and the Israel and Iran. All of it's going to happen, and then Hezbollah, Hamas, all these groups, and Turkey will be jumping in. I mean, the world war right here has already split into sides, and they even have a system. They're planning a system to come back in after all of the dust settles. BRICS and a new currency will end up coming into play. And I bet you that new currency is most likely going to be either a digital or currency backed. And the screwed up part is there's people in our own system right now, in our own gov, that are pushing for digital this, digital that. And this would be kind of put right into the new system. You can't even look at us as a separate place anymore, almost, because of how controlled right now 2 out of the 3 branches are right now. I mean, this is a really scary time. And for our kids, I don't know what kind of world they're going to live in. Now when they're calling anybody with an opinion basically a, domestic this and domestic that, I mean, like, we are in a very bad place right now. That's why people need to be aware. People need to be bringing friends and family into the loop the best way they can without scaring them. Don't be just, it's kind of like if a guy or girl is hitting on you or something, and they go, hey, there's a great video of this guy going, hey man, do you want a guy that's rich, that's got things, blah blah blah, my wife just died yesterday, my daughter did this, blah blah blah. And the girl goes like, whoa, what a trauma dump. And this big buff guy's like, yeah, whatever, you just don't want me. It's kind of like that. It's like, as far as all what is going on right now, I think that we're going to totally get blindsided by. As far as what is happening next, I think that it's just going to be completely blindsiding most people. Again, don't trauma dump on your friends and family. Give them little bits at a time. When you see them, if you end up going like just full on, like here's link after link after link, people are not going to respond. But this is the time when you need to be sending like one a day. Send them a story that isn't on the front page, that they're not pushing as Ganda. Send them a story of movement. Send them this, send them that. Say, hey, do you have your stocks just in case? Be really, really chill about it, because if you scream on the corner, just like the people, some of the people that scream at people and say you're going to hell, that I don't know how well that converts people to, say, Christianity. More so than somebody just jumping in and helping push their car or something, right? Try doing a favor for a friend, and then when you're in a good spot and that person is in a spot where they owe you, maybe then they'll be more open to listening to you. Because right now is when we need to try to help our friends and family, even the ones we don't agree with, even the ones that basically disagree with us to the point where they just won't even touch the subjects. You say the wrong headline, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you're one of those. At this point, I don't think that you could say it could get any closer. I mean, we're down to a couple months timeline. So I hope that everybody has a basic plan just in case. We're not saying the world is going to end, but I definitely believe it is going to change, and it's going to change fast. It is changing every day. The incremental changes too, people need to start paying attention to those. Everything is changed one step at a time, and people don't notice it. They're passing laws at midnight behind closed doors, and people are not following this. Whenever a law that affects you changes, send it to everybody you know. All right, let's see here. Thank you, and thank you, Carol. I appreciate the support. Ilea, thank you for helping out Lindy Lou. Thank you, Neil Nelson. Thank you. I believe you and Carol are top supporters tonight. And then thank you, Edward Elkins and Eric's Place. I appreciate you guys rejoining as well. And then, of course, thank you, Mimi's Mountain Home, Caheads, and Beans and Frank for joining. Remember to go over and check out Energy. If you don't have a backup power supply, when the power goes out, you probably already know that it can be bad. If you have a power generator, again, if you have a solar generator, you're going to have power for as long as you have sun. So as long as the sun rises, you're going to be able to generate free power as long as you go get yourself some panels. Now, this is an awesome system because it's modular, it's expandable. You can actually add up to 96 batteries if you want, or you can take it with one and use it wherever you don't have an extension cord. If the power goes out, you can use it to run all of your stuff. It is a very extremely tough unit as far as it's built like a tank, a reinforced steel frame. It's got a 1,500-pound latch system. This thing is so tough that they have picked it for the STTR Phase 2 contract for the U.S. Army. So when they say Army tough, they mean it. This thing is meant to go through the ringer. So go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Imagine next time your power goes out, you essentially just push this on. The power's already stored, just like a battery bank for your phone, only this is a battery bank for your home. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy. All right, Dex, I want to thank you for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And a special announcement. We are now dubbing and we are going to be doing another one tomorrow. But I wanted to dub thy Bobby Sue as one of our newest moderators. Bobby Sue, thank you so much for not only making almost every show, but thank you as well for being loving and caring for the people around you. Bobby Sue is now to be dubbed moderator. I almost, before I've said knighting, and I think people were like, no, I don't know what the history is with knighting, but you are dubbed the newest moderator. We will see you guys tomorrow. Make sure to tune in. And again, thank you all for joining. Thank you over on DLive. Appreciate you guys as well. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Belly. I appreciate that. And everybody else that has been watching over on Twitter and on Rumble. All right, you guys, it is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Delisa Flower, it's that depends if you like horrible experimental music. The shoutro is where I say thank you to the people that matter most. Of course, you got to drop an M in the chat for all of the wonderful mods. You also have to go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. This is where all of our moderators' links live. Most of them have their own channels and great content from, of course, Bones over on TikTok, Chance Paladin with his books on Amazon, CJ Blaze with her awesome and very insightful videos, Optical Gem, always changing it up with the link tree. Jammer1 is just a great guy. He helps out everybody. Of course, Lisa R. Hall is our longest running mod. We miss you, Lisa. Lisa's got full-time job. She's working. Rip Curl Readiness has been popping in on a regular basis. I really appreciate Rip being here for almost, I don't know, like 5 years now. RJL Harris. RJL Harris got a lot of stuff going on as well. Ilea is boss lady, so don't mess with Ilea. And then, of course, Trinity, Red or Blue Pill, Hi-Ho Kermit the Frog here, and Wages World.